low 90s, but feeling like the upper 90s with the humidity, and only a few afternoon inland showers and storms. For the weekend, a front stalls out across the northern portions of the state, and rain chances on the increase. Highs in the low 90s with afternoon showers and storms. Sunday looks to be the wetter of the 2 weekend days. I'm WPTV First Alert meteorologist Katya Hall for WSTU 1450. March.
It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
COVID, unexpected expenses, illnesses. There are many issues that can cause your successful business to slump deep into the red. We are here to help, and we only get paid if we provide you a workout. Debt restructuring is complicated. We are the negotiator between you and your creditors. Commercial Mortgage has been in the industry of small balance corporate finance since 2003. Our focus is on challenging corporate foreclosures, debt restructures, equity, and new debt solutions. These issues are often not easy to see or understand when you run a business and are faced with multifaceted debt challenges that include legal action on various fronts. That's where we come in. We never charge a front fee or deposit. We are only paid if we successfully provide you a debt workout. Areas of expertise include hotels, marinas, office buildings, restaurants, apartments, multifamily, condos, golf courses, home builders, land development, including new and repurposed developments. Call Commercial Mortgage LLC at 772-872-6099 or visit them online, commercialmortgagellc.com. I have to remind everybody, as I do every week, it is now hurricane season, and the best place to keep your boat is Indiantown Marina. It's one of South Florida's best boat storage facilities, and it's located inland on the Okeechobee Waterway. Very well protected hurricane hull. Can't recommend a better place, folks. You need peace of mind to know your boat has a place to be stored, safe hurricane harborage in the event we have a storm that comes ashore. So give them a call at 772-631-3272. Reserve your spot. I can tell you that once a storm is named, you're probably not going to find a place to keep your boat. So do that today and have peace of mind. And also, I have to remind you about the best kept secret in Martin County. It's down in the pocket, and it is the Fish House Art Center, thefishhouseartcenter.com. Tons of fun things to do out there for the entire family. There's local artists, art gallery, boat charters, marina, craft and creamery, craft beers and wine, and 24 flavors of ice cream. You can rent paddle boards and bikes, and it's just a ton of fun. So check them out. It's thefishhouseartcenter.com. Today, folks, we are live on Facebook, but we are pre-recording the show that will air on the 29th of June. It's a Meet Your Candidate series, and it's somebody that you all are very familiar with who is usually in my seat ahead of me. So we have Mark Brechbill in the studio.
Good morning, Casey.
Good morning, Mark. I appreciate you coming in and candidate.
I wanted to mention real quickly a plug for commercial mortgage. With what's going on in the mortgage market in terms of interest rates and increases in rates, when you're in that market, you need that kind of assistance. And as a CPA, I've had an opportunity to work with commercial mortgage. So I just want to put a plug in because that's going to become more and more important as we're going through when you're negotiating on these large commercial loans.
It sure is. Well, and Mark, you cover these things in your show. You have a couple shows here at WSTU AM 1450. So you're very familiar with legislation and the economy and how things are impacting businesses. So I appreciate that. Yeah. But Mark is running for City of Stuart Commission in Group 1. So Mark, this is an exciting time. A lot of things have been happening here within the city, and I think part of that is the reason why you put your hat in the ring. So I'll let you tell us why.
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved with the city for a number of years. I was involved with Main Street. I was previously president of Stuart Main Street. I've been involved in a lot of charitable activities downtown, a lot of things that were going on. And I love Stuart, and I love Martin County. I moved here in 1986. I came here for the schools, for the river, for the friendship and the great people. I came from a small town originally up in Illinois, so I have that kind of background where I love small towns. I passed up large jobs with large incomes to not go to big cities.
Right.
So as I've watched Stuart, edging towards that cliff of trying to be, Boston or New York or something, It concerns me. My family's here. I raised my family here. They went to schools here. They went to college in Florida, and I know just in terms of Stuart, I know those people, and we want. I think a lot of people want to preserve that heritage. And I use heritage broadly. A lot of times people think it's just property or a background, but it's all of that. It's that small town character. That's part of our heritage. That's who we are. And I think you can ask a bunch of people, and they'll give up a lot of financial gain to have what we've always had, and that's a great city that people care about each other, and that's why I love the charities in Martin County. I mean, the charities are tremendous in Martin County. There's and I forget the numbers now, but it's thousands and thousands of people are helping out with charities and volunteers. People who receive assistance in Martin County help with other charities. It's amazing.
They do.
And so what happened is that at the city level, at the local level, I think the national politics kind of fall out to the wayside. At this level, what we're talking about is individual problems and how the community wants to solve them, and that's what I'm about. I want to start creating more of a community dialogue so people know what's going on. I'd like to slow things down. I think we're kind of headed in the wrong direction, and I don't think that that's because of any kind of nastiness on anybody's part or trying to be deceitful. I think that part of the problem I think that happens is that we haven't really had any financial people on real financial background people on the commission really kind of since Crosskopf got off, and Jeff was the guy that used to keep he kept his thumb on everything that was going on in terms of making sure he knew what the budget was and what was happening and how numbers were being spent. And what I see happening is a lot of things that I know the commission's heart is in the right place, but I know economically, as you know, I do a lot with economics and was an ex-banker, and I know economically what they're doing is not going to produce the result that they think it is, right? And so
you have to have that financial understanding, and that's really, you just hit the nail on the head. That's your background, and that's something that you can bring to the table. It's going to be a unique set of
eyes,
abilities.
Ways to look at
yes,
it. Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm a CPA, but I was a banker. I was chief financial officer of a $500 million bank at one point. I was their chief economist. So I've had an opportunity to look at some of these things and follow them through to the end. And it's just like right now, we're real close to the late 1970s, the early 1980s. And those of us that lived through it, I lived through it in the banking industry, I know what a 21% prime looks like.
That's right.
And so that financial background, I think I can help tweak things a little bit to accomplish what are really, really good goals, but to do it in a way that will work, that will produce a result. I will say the only probably national politics things that I would say is that the city of Stuart's a nonpartisan race, so
right.
And that's a good thing because, like I said, it's people solving problems, right?
100%.
Right. But I will tell you that my preference is as little government as possible and as much decision making at the people level as possible. The closer we can get to the people making a decision, I think the better we are. I don't like the idea of government making those decisions for them, and I definitely don't like the idea of state government and federal government making those decisions because we have no opportunity to really converse with those people and tell them what we really think should happen. That's where at that level people start getting cubbyholed. Well, you're a Republican, so you think this. You're a Democrat, so you think this. Well, at the local level, we're not. We're all about problems and how to solve them. And that's really where I want to be. And that's what I'm trying to do.
In our local politics, as you said earlier, is a perfect term as the character. It affects the character of our community the most.
Yes.
So you always need to start locally, and I appreciate you really focusing on that and saying that. And speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about Costco. If you were a commissioner, where do you fall on the Costco issue? It of course, was out by the I-95 through the county commission, it couldn't get through the county commission approvals.
Right.
And so then they moved over to Canner Highway, and it was approved through the city. And then, of course, there's a lawsuit about how it was approved. And it's not gone away yet, but they're trying to work through that. But what is your feelings on how that Casco was approved? Do you think that there should have been, put on the brakes and make sure we're doing this?
That's a good thing to talk about. There's a couple things that I kind of did want to talk about relative to that type of situation. So first of all, I have no problem with Costco. I'll say that I don't have a problem with Costco.
Right.
Now, I have a problem with urban sprawl, city sprawl, and why you would take and put thousands of square feet of office on the same location. You're going to put 380 apartments when there is no ability to work on that site. See, our development process in Stuart, and the thing that makes us different is that it has been based on the concept of mixed use. Now, that has some financial difficulties in terms of financing those things, but the idea is, as much as possible, we eliminate the burden on transportation and parking by having people be able to work where they live and vice versa.
Right.
That isn't going to happen out there. You've got Cleveland Clinic on the corner. You're going to have Costco. That's a dangerous intersection, 8 lanes besides.
Right.
And so if that project had been there with just commercial, and we wouldn't have tried to pack 380 residents on that, but I can tell you this, and this is the trouble when you get out of area developers, that has to make sense financially, and because they're all about what the bottom line is going to be on that, and that developer had to put those 380 units in there, and that it didn't belong there. The residential didn't belong on that site. And that's the kind of thing that I think, I want to use a good example. And it was funny because it occurred actually at the same CRB meeting and the same commission meeting. There were 2 projects up for approval. One was the marina that's going north of the bridge, right?
Right.
Great project, the old Evinrude project. They were going to do some really good things with it. That property sat idle and unproductive for years.
Right.
And it was in effect a local builder. Now, one of the problems we have here is we've made the building process so complicated in Stuart that you have to get a PUD, you have to go through this process, that we're forcing builders to build properties that are 4 stories and that are maximum density, because that's the only way they can make their numbers work.
Right.
Because they've got what they call soft costs, all of the engineering costs and architectural costs and the PUD costs and all of those things. They've got $300,000-$500,000 in that before they even turn a shovel. And so at that point, investors want to get paid for that. So what we've had is a lot of projects that have been done by out of county developers and in fact out of state developers. Mm-hmm. So they don't have an interest in what we want from a community standpoint. They have an interest only in what they need to get for their investors, right?
Right.
So it's unusual that we have anybody that's a local developer.
Yes.
Jeff Harden, Straticon, he was the one behind that project along with some people in Palm City.
Right.
And so here's this project, great project, but it proposes an 81-foot faux lighthouse that wasn't going to be operated, was empty and everything else, that was considered to be an art project, is how they were proposing it. And a lot of people were unhappy about that because of the slippery slope concept.
Right.
So
over 4 stories, and that's right. Where do you draw the line?
Which I wish some people would have thought about that a while back when we approved 12 stories on the hospital site to Martin Memorial, who's now Cleveland Clinic. But anyway, let's not talk about that. but what I'm saying is, here's a local builder, right? At the same time, there is another good developer, but not a local developer. It is New Urban out of Delray, right? They're the ones that built the Azul apartments downtown.
Yes.
All right?
And they just were approved for some apartments crossing the courthouse.
That's the project I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's the project. So here's what we're talking about. So now we got these 2 projects, both at the same time, a handful of people there to see it because it happened at probably 9 o'clock at night,
right.
or 9:30 at night, right? And because they're always last on the agenda. But what happens is when a local developer gets input from the community says, we don't want that lighthouse, it's a slippery slope, they pulled it out. Right? They pulled it out.
That's 100% what happened.
Right. And when Troy McDonald said, how come these are only 6-foot sidewalks? I thought, oh, that's a mistake. 8-foot sidewalks, right? Because they know that's what we want, 8-foot sidewalks. So they made every change. Now, that cost them money. Interesting thing is, that art project, they already had 3 times the amount that they were spending on art. You have to spend 1% of your fair market value, estimated fair market value of your project on art. In Martin County. That in Stuart, Martin County, it goes back and it has to be in some form of art, statues, sculptures, paintings, whatever. They did a tremendous amount of art type projects on that site, right? So when that went out, they didn't even have to put anything else in because they already
were above and beyond what was needed.
Now let's flip to the other project. Again, good people, but not local. So now here's a piece of property across from the courthouse that I know for a fact to be able to develop that property under our code the way it's supposed to be developed, which should be a combination of mixed use. It should be office and residential, right? Is going to take about 136 parking places, right?
Okay.
Now, we'll talk about whether that should be a requirement or not, but it's 136 parking places. The 2 projects before that failed because they couldn't get financing because they had to provide parking garages to park the project, right? So the current developer says, yeah, we had these projects kind of like that, nobody could get it done. Well, nobody could get it done because you had to build a parking garage with 136 parking places. What did this developer come in at? 77.
How is that?
So that's 60 parking places short of the required parking. And in some of that parking, it includes street parking. And in some of that parking, it includes tandem parking, where some cars park behind the other. So you can't even share the parking place because it has to be somebody living in the same. Now, this is what happens. And then to top it off, under the RETA program, which is a program that allows construction developer that develops within the CRA, they get to keep 50% of the increase in real estate taxes for their project for the next 5 years. Now, that's estimated on that project. It's called the Elizabethan or something. That project across from the courthouse that New Urban was doing, that was estimated and where I don't know, at $100,000, $50,000 to the developer, so $250,000. That's assuming that's a $10 million project. That's a $20 million project at least. There's 57 apartments on site.
Right.
So we're going to be giving them somewhere close to $1 million, and we didn't even make them park it. And so we didn't get any so there's the kind of thing that in our eagerness to get something done, we lose track of the long-term aspect of that. 2 other things that are interesting. That last night at the commission meeting, they were having a discussion on charging stations, right?
Right.
And some of the commissioners wanted to, go into business of running charging stations, which I'm not in favor of. I think that's a private enterprise that should be involved there. And but it was interesting. We let a development company get away with 60 less parking places that we needed, and we didn't ask them for a single charging station.
And 60 spaces is a lot. I'm
60
really
spaces.
surprised to hear that. I can see maybe 5 spaces or something. That's 60.
And the logic behind it is that they're going to be shared spaces. But that logic doesn't work. First of all, because you got the courthouse that inundates that place. And second of all, you've got a restaurant there that's already beyond their required parking, and they approved outdoor dining for them. So they're already going to be 10 or 15 parking places above what they're zoned for, right? And then the concept is that under shared parking is that the person that lives there is going to take their car and drive off the property during the day when the commercial use happens, right? And that place will be free. And then when the commercial leaves, then they'll come back. But wait, this is downtown. This is infill. The idea is you're supposed to live there and work there. So a lot of the people that presumably, had it been affordable, which it's not, they would not be taking their car anywhere. And they would have a car. They have to park it somewhere.
Right.
So what you're going to have is what they have in some big cities. People parked along the street because they can't find any parking. And then every Tuesday they move it to the other side of the street so they don't get ticketed. And then every Thursday they move it back to the other side of the street because that's where people's cars are going to stay most of the time. So the concept of work and live in downtown is a great one. But then don't use the opposite logic to approve 60 less parking places.
Right,
Especially since you have a piece of property that the city owns 1 block down that you could have gotten a subsidy to create parking on that spot. So again, we need that kind of infill building. That's affordable housing. If those units, those units are 900 square feet, all right?
Yes.
They're 900 square feet over there. I don't know if you know it, but the city of Stuart defines a unit. That property is only allowed to have 29 units.
Okay.
It has 57. So you said, well, whoa, how does that work?
Right.
Well, it's the definition of a unit. Under the city code, the definition of a unit, if a unit is 900 square feet or less, it's a half a unit. And if it's like 1,100 square feet, it's 3/4 of a unit. You've got to get up to like, I think 1,800 square feet or something.
Okay.
So what in effect happened is even though there's only 29 units, it's really 57 units, but those units are still 900 square feet. That is not affordable. The only way you get affordable, I've said this tons of time, affordable housing isn't affordable unless you can afford it. You cannot subsidize your way to affordable housing. You have to create jobs, which should be our major emphasis in City of Stuart, is to create jobs. You have to create jobs, and then what you have to do is get units that are of a size that they make sense and that are affordable. If you have a 500, I live in a 450 square foot apartment. That is fine for me. I spend all my time outside. I don't, maybe watch Netflix when I'm going to sleep at night. When I'm going to sleep at night, but that's it, right? So I'm outside. 450 is fine for me. I don't even use my kitchen hardly. So, that's what I'm saying. It's just that's where I'm saying that all it is people are heading in the right direction, but then they get off track and they just miss opportunities. And a lot of that's not understanding the finance of the transaction.
So, folks, we've been speaking with Mark Brechbill. He is running for the City of Stuart Commission on Group 1. Mark, we're running out of time here really quick, but we've had some people tuning in here on Facebook. RJ Pazzi, he likes the smaller government involvement, and he said 8,000 cars per day are already filling Stuart. It's already congested roads. Soft costs act as protectionism against local and small business proprietors, and agrees that the government should not be in the business that private business can handle. And he also said it sounds like selective enforcement and or cronyism when they approve these projects in the name of smart development.
Yeah.
So, folks, I think what you can tell right now listening to Mark, we had a lot more topics I'd love to cover with him, but you can tell he's very involved. You've been at the commission meetings. You know what's going on with this city, and that's what you need for a commissioner, is somebody who's going to represent, how your interest here for the city, and that's really what you do. Sorry, that was mine. And if you can hear the phone. Mark, how can people support you, reach out to you, find out more about you?
You can go to my website, www.markforstuart, markforstuart.com. That's got most of my positions on it. There's an opportunity to donate if you want to donate. I can tell you this, I'm in this for the long haul. I'm not moving from Stuart. They're not making me leave, and I'm going to fight for it. So that's what I'm going to do. That's the easiest way. I have a Facebook page too, and I elect Mark for Stuart.
Okay.
And that's the Facebook page. So join us, and if you're interested, call me. My cell phone is there, 772-631-4800. I enjoy talking to people. One of the things I guarantee you, whether you vote for me or not, I will listen to you. I don't believe that just because you're not a voter, you don't have a right to have a voice, and I will be your voice regardless of whether you vote or not.
100%. That's what an elected official should do, so I appreciate that. Again, Mark Brechbill, you're running for City of Stuart Commission, Group 1. For those of you on Facebook, tomorrow we're going to have 2 more candidates in the studio. We're going to have Jen Russell running for the school board, and we're going to have Commissioner Sarah Hurd, who is up for re-election on the Martin County Commission. So that'll be tomorrow morning, beginning at 10 a.m. Mark Brechbill, thank you for tuning in, and it was fun to have you on the other side here.
Thank you, Casey. I appreciate it.
You bet. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 10. Forbearances, working remotely, internet shopping, retail space, and rental income have been